Hi, I'm Sofia Bernardi, mindset and business coach supporting ambitious new and rising coaches to master their mindset, create an aligned and profitable strategy, and grow a six-figure business and beyond using the Rising Coach method. I built a $500,000 business by the age of 24, and in this podcast, I will teach you the psychology, strategy, and energetics to do the same. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Rising Coaches with Sofia Bernardi. Guys, today I had the absolute honor and privilege of interviewing my client, Beki. Beki is from the UK, and as you can probably hear, I'm from Australia, so we are worlds apart. However, I had the honor of meeting her a few months ago as she was doing a 3-month trip as a single mum of 2 children that she homeschools in Australia. We met up for the day and it was incredible. We went for a big walk around Brisbane and we went to eat and had coffee, and it was just beautiful. I'm so grateful that we have crossed paths both physically but then also online, as that's how we originally connected. So, bit of context, Beki found me back in my earlier stages of business. We had started around the same time and we were making around about the same money. And then all of a sudden, my business really skyrocketed and she couldn't understand what it is she was quote unquote missing. If you're watching the video version of this, you'll see my hand connotations, but she didn't understand what she was missing. And through her then reaching out to me, wanting to work with me, she came into my mastermind and she worked with me for a year, which was incredible. And what we very early on realized is that what was missing was, of course, tweaks to strategy and mindset. That's, there's always things we can do to refine, improve, and master what we're doing. But a big core thing that I found here was energetics. Her energy absolutely needed to shift. Energetics to me is all about embodiment. It's all about releasing what no longer serves you and stepping into that next level version of yourself, which is something she just was not familiar with at all. I'll let her explain in the episode in great depths as to what that really looked like. But through this transformation and journey she went on through my mastermind, she completely turned her entire life around, not just her business, but her life financially, emotionally, physically. She is living a life now that is unrecognizable to what it was, 18 months ago. I'm so proud of her, and I want this episode for you to be a shining, rising example of what is possible for you, because if Beki, as a single mum of 2, homeschooling children, navigating some pretty tough challenges through this period, completely turning her business around and traveling the world, if she can do that, then you absolutely can do anything as well. Anything is possible. She shares that as well. And I'm really excited for you to learn in this episode about her journey, the role that energetics has played for her and what that specifically looked like, how she has grown her business to consistent $20,000 months and beyond through working very, very little. I'm talking a couple of hours a day max. She has automated and delegated a lot in her business through organic strategies, and she runs automated online events, which, as you know, I'm very passionate about events. So you're going to love this episode if you want to learn what's possible for you, how you can turn things around, how you can take things to the next level. And honestly, I was almost brought to tears throughout this episode, and I have full body goosebumps again whilst I'm recording this, because it was just such a magical episode to see how far a human being can come when they are ambitious, when they are driven, when they are committed, when they have pure intentions, and when they never ever give up. This episode is going to be incredible. Enjoy, my friends. Hello, Beki. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited about this. It's funny because you obviously started as a client of mine, and now I feel like we're just best friends that talk about lots of things other than coaching.
I know, that was amazing to be able to come and see you in Brisbane.
I know. Yeah, just for context for everyone, Beki, and you'll learn about this so much throughout this episode, but she went traveling all around Australia with her children whilst making money in her business. And I was lucky enough to have her come visit me, and we spent the day together walking in like the forest and all of the things. And it was so much fun because, as you can probably hear from accents, she is from the UK and I'm from Australia. I'm so excited about this. Beki, do you just want to start by sharing a little bit about who you are and then also what you do?
Okay, so I'm obviously in the UK and I worked as an occupational therapist for 13 years. And as part of that, I ended up getting quite burnt out. So I'm a mum of two home educated kids, and I was married at the time. And my husband at the time, he had a massive heart attack when he was 41, and it just rocked our world. It was a very, very devastating time for us with the two little children. And I couldn't cope actually, and I ended up being off sick as well as him, just because the whole thing,
Stress.
looking after children, feeling stressed. I was really not enjoying my job as an occupational therapist as well. I felt very burnt out, pushed, but also unfulfilled. I felt that I wasn't doing the job I'd trained to do. So it was a really pivotal time. I had a lot of mental health kind of things that came up, and it just felt that I was pushed over the edge and I just couldn't cope. And so it was from that stage, through sheer desperation, that we decided to change our life. And we did, and it was really exciting, but we couldn't figure out how to make money to fund it. I tried so many different things at the time, like network marketing, eBay business. I Airbnb'd the house that we were living in. And we kept going off on these camper van trips and having guests stay in our house. I did literally everything I could to try and figure this thing out of how to make money. But in the end, I was absolutely desperate. So we sold our house in England, literally, and I packed my job up and we're like, yes, let's go traveling in the camper van. So we did that, and then all of a sudden it was COVID, and I found myself jobless and homeless all at the same time in the middle of COVID. So that was the fun start to my business, because it was through, again, sheer desperation that I was just like, oh my goodness, I can't travel. All my plans have just been changed. I'm an occupational therapist, but I'm not working as one. So my brain was buzzing around with all these ideas, and how can I actually make that into a business? So that's the backstory to how I started, really.
Yeah. And you know what? Knowing what I know about you now, having, been close with you for quite some time now, you are such an ambitious, go-getting person. So I'm not surprised at all that that is your journey, just being willing to relentlessly try everything, because you're so open like that. Like, you're just willing to try it and do it. And it's one of my favorite things about you, because I'm sure you'll agree, like, when it comes to entrepreneurship, you really have to have that desire to like go out and do things, like take action, knowing that it's through the action you take that you're going to get the results that you want. And so you've shown that right before you even found, coaching, that you were just like willing to figure things out and test and trial things, and also let go of the things that weren't serving you, right? And you've shown that both in business, but then also in your personal life as well. So I think that that is incredible. Is it really common that you hear of OTs going through the same thing that you went through, of feeling like the career path is not what they had set out to do, and, feeling burnt out and things like that? Do you find that with your niche?
Yes, I do. So in general, occupational therapists are very caring people, and they've trained in order to be able to share a whole kind of ideology of enabling people. And then what happens is they start working within a system, and the system, like the NHS in the UK, becomes very restrictive, and it's a lot more about paperwork than it is about people, in many of the jobs, not all of them, but many times.
Yeah.
And so it really reduces what they're doing. So from a fulfillment factor, I think a lot of occupational therapists are just feeling burnt out because they're having to see high volume of of clients, one after the other, and they're not feeling that they're able to give the best, because they're spending too much time on paperwork. And even when they set up businesses like a private practice, some of the time they also end up in this situation where they're just working crazy amount of hours. I hear of people working 6-day weeks for their own business, and just having non-stop clients back to back. And it's just sad that it's like that, really.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I can think of so many friends of mine that are OTs actually. So it'll be interesting for me to now actually go and ask them how they feel about it. Just moving on a little bit, I know that when we connected, we had actually been in a similar starting point in business, like both right as the pandemic hit. And I remember when we first connected, every now and again, I'd get a message from you being like, how are you growing? Like, we started at the same time. We're doing a similar strategy. What's going on here? And then when we started working together, after having a conversation together, I could see that really a big thing that we needed to work on together was energetics. And for people that obviously listen to the podcast and know me, know that I focus on a combination of your psychology, strategy, and energy. And I believe you need all three to really grow and succeed in your business and life. But you had the strategy down pat. Like I said, you were good at taking action, but it was more the energetic side of things. And I know, being close friends with you now, it's something we talk about all of the time, how it continues to positively impact you. So I would love for you to share, like, what is energetics to you and how has it really changed both your life and your business?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, when I met you, I can remember just seeing this blur of happiness and this constant energy all over the screen. Whereas I was probably a little bit depressed and feeling a little bit miserable. So I was taking action, but it was from a very different energy to what you were putting across. And I can remember I used to keep messaging you every now and again. And first of all, we were earning a similar amount, and then all of a sudden you just skyrocketed. And I was like, oh, what's she got? What's she doing? And I just want to be in her space. And like sometimes if we'd message, I'd be like a little bit addicted to kind of like wanting to be with you. And then I realized that that was the thing, that it was it was that energy I was addicted to. Like I just wanted to spend time with you and hear the way you talked, and just feel that. And so that was at the start of the process. And I think a lot of the work we did together, there was some clear things that came up for me. One of them was money mindset, that seemed to be a repeated pattern that I had to work on so much. It was so hard. And I can remember we had many, many chats about that, and having to work through those pieces. And then the other thing was relationships, and that's been a repeated pattern for me. If I think even about work relationships, but also personal relationships, and there was some key things that I needed to set boundaries, assert myself, and let go ultimately of some things that were perhaps not serving me anymore. So there was this massive kind of up leveling, I think, in me just realizing that I'm worth living a good life, and that I don't have to be attached to things that weren't making me feel good. And I can remember there was a time in particular where you chatted to me for about 2 hours. And I was in a really difficult place, and you gave me some very stern words.
I
You
remember
said
this
something,
conversation.
yeah. I'm not saying what it was about, but you said some of the things that nobody else, not even my best friends, were telling me. And it was very insightful, and it was a key pivotal moment in my life. And after that conversation, I made some very tough decisions, and things have just completely changed. But it was like this negative energy, and that was the source of it. And it was almost like I was avoiding getting to the root cause of the problem by skirting around it for years. And when I actually went head first and tackled the real thing, The real thing that was the issue, things just changed kind of exponentially because my energy just lifted. I became lighter. And I just felt free, and energetics wise, you can see I have people coming to me now and saying, oh, I just want to be around you, and I'm attracted to your energy, and I'm like, yay, that's because I finally became free in myself, and worked on myself to the point that I feel wonderful every day,
Oh,
which was a big part of it.
honestly, like I'm close to tears. My whole body has got full body goosebumps from that. Like, that's just incredible. Like, obviously, I've known this, we've had this conversation so many times, but it just doesn't get old because you're just like such a shining example of you can turn anything around if you're willing to go head first in the root cause of the problem. And what I think is so cool is you're right, they were very stern words. Like it wasn't a light-hearted fluffy conversation, right? It was really it was like almost a tell-off. And but it's so important. And the thing is that I want to give you so much credit for is that some people can't handle tough conversations. They can't take responsibility for their situations. And so when someone calls them out on something or says something that's incredibly uncomfortable, even just mentioning the potential root cause, that's enough for people to completely run in the direction. And it's so much easier to be like, F you, I don't want to do this. Like, who are you to say this or do this or whatever? But you were able to really sit in it and look at the role you're playing in the results that are occurring in your life, and actually that you have all of the power and more to change that. And so I really want to acknowledge you here, because it's not so much about what I said and more how you responded to that, and then more importantly what you then went and did with that information. And that's the reason why you have the business and that you have the life and the relationships that you have today, because you totally took over like the power within your life to make the changes that you want to make. And that's all because of you. So I think that it's so cool that I know exactly the conversation you're talking about. And I think we had several of those types of conversations on different topics over our time together, and that they've all played a big role in different ways. And it's so cool. And I know we reflected a lot on this when we were in person together, but just how different your life is. Like to go from, unhappy in certain relationships and financial situations and the way your business was structured and the people you were attracting, to now like traveling the world, having incredible people in your life, having so much financial freedom, but then even more so than just the financial freedom, the time freedom, like, not having back-to-back calls and sales calls and all of the things, but people actually coming to you and just ready and willing to work with you because of your energy, is so freaking cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to be able to go to Australia for 3 months was just incredible.
Mm.
And then to come back to the UK, and I've got the most beautiful home that I've been able to afford all on my own, with just stunning panoramic views of the countryside. And I've got cleaners and gardeners and all these people to support me, which was just a dream when we first started working together. But I don't work a lot, like I home educate the kids, and that's always been my priority,
Mm.
is having time freedom, particularly because I come from that background of, the heart attack, and realizing how much stress there was. So I've never needed to earn lots of money. It's been always been more about, let me just have enough so that I can be supported, live my very best life, travel, but not have to work a lot. And it's sometimes I have to pinch myself of how easily that's come true. Well, I say easily, it was a lot of deep effort, a lot of me going, I don't want to deal with that thing. Can't we just talk about something else, Sophia? Anything but that. So there was a lot of that to start with, but now on the other side of it, it's like, wow, how did that happen?
It's so funny because you talk about it being like, yeah, being easy versus hard and everything like that. And I think sometimes when people talk about hard work versus easy work, they think that hard work is like doing lots of things and just like pushing, pushing, pushing. And so you had to do hard work, but it didn't necessarily mean time or like output, but more just like hard in terms of like tough conversations, sitting in tough emotions and releasing them. And that is hard, but it's not like physically hard kind of thing. It's more just emotionally, like being willing to like let go of what doesn't serve you and lean into what does, essentially. And so good things are often hard, but not hard in the way that people think. It doesn't have to be hard in terms of time and energy, but more the depth that you're willing to go with yourself, essentially. And that comes from like I said, sitting in emotions, having tough conversations, but it also looks like making big investments in yourself, taking big jumps and leaps and risks, even when things didn't look so great. Like I know when you first invested in me, that was like a super scary decision. It may have felt right, but that doesn't mean from a financial perspective alone, like it was just super easy, if that makes sense. Now those things are easier, but you first still had to start at that point where it was hard and where it was uncomfortable. And then it just gets easier and better. So I just find that's often such a misconception in the online space. When people say it's easy, like it gets to be easy, but that's off the back end of doing some hard things, right? And that's what allows you now to work very little. But that's not because you don't work hard. It's because you've really done hard work to create that, essentially.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Because if I think back to those early days, I was working a lot more hours with very little input, especially at the start, while I was figuring all the pieces out. And then the flows just increased more and more as I've been going on. And then obviously I've had to drop hours just because of traveling. You can't maintain that and world school my two children at the same time. And it's just all worked out perfectly. Perfect timing.
Amazing. So you've managed to grow your business to roughly $20,000 months in Australian dollars whilst traveling the world and whilst homeschooling two children as a single parent, which is just incredible. Even one of those things on its own can be very difficult. So I've heard, whether you're a single parent or just have children or are traveling or whatever, you've gone and put all of those common denominators in one, then add homeschooling into it. I can imagine, if we're going to talk about what's hard, that at times could be hard. And I'm not yet a mother, but I can't wait to be. And so I would love to hear from you. What advice would you give to other mamas out there that listen to the podcast, or busy women in general that are wanting to grow their business? Because you managed to actually not only sustain that income, but I think your income actually increased during this time. So what does that look like? What advice would you give to people that are struggling with time and energy and telling themselves that it's just not possible for them because of XYZ? Hi guys, I wanted to quickly interrupt this podcast episode to chat to you about my mastermind, Rise to Six. This is the mastermind for rising coaches plus service-based businesses who want to grow their business to consistent $10,000 months and beyond. This is the exact mastermind where I teach you the mindset, the strategy, and the energetics that supported me to build a multi-six-figure business in under 2 years. This mastermind is both a group container and a one-on-one container. I am so deeply committed to working very closely with my clients so that they feel deeply supported and get the results that they came for. I'm very, very passionate and committed to your results. So know that if you join this mastermind, that we're basically going to become best friends, because I'm going to be with you every step of the way. It is here that I teach you every single thing I do and have done to grow my business in a way that truly feels so authentic and so abundant and fun. I want this for you too, and this is exactly what you get when you join the mastermind Rise to Six. You can head to the show notes to click the link and learn more about the mastermind to see if it's for you, or come chat with me. Come message me on Instagram or Facebook and let's have a chat, see if the mastermind is for you. But in a nutshell, you have to be extremely committed. You have to be ready to grow your business, because that's what we're going to be doing. You have to be super kind, and you have to be a female coach or service provider. If you can tick those boxes, then this mastermind is absolutely for you, and I would love to chat with you. So head to the link in the show notes or come DM me and let's chat. XYZ.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, anything is possible. But second, I think it's important to point out here that my first, or not my first attempt, but one attempt a year ago of traveling with the kids, if you remember, Sophia, because I was crying on the phone to you, in a camper van. I went traveling in a camper van with the kids and a puppy. And it was horrific. Like, I can't even explain how horrible that was, trying to earn money from that space. So it's not, I don't think it's necessarily easy just to be able to make that happen. And I've learned a lot along the way. I think many people after that experience of trying to live in a camper van and run a business might not ever repeat it. And I think part of what I needed to do was establish the business first.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a big part of it, that if you try and do everything all at once, that it ends up being very, very difficult. So I think there's a big factor in it was being kind on yourself. And whenever I see mums, particularly if their kids are 4 and under, I'm just like, oh my goodness, you are surviving. Nobody's dead yet. Like, just well done, congratulate yourself, and any small things that you do to the business along the way, you've just got to be kind to yourself and grateful. Because I think one of the biggest things that we worked out when I was going through that stage was that I was so hard on myself, and I was constantly looking at, well, I haven't achieved this, I haven't achieved that. And I can remember one day you was just like, but Beck, you're traveling, you're in the camper van, you've already created 3 months like where you're free to just go away with your family. Can't you just be grateful for being at that stage? And I was like, no, because I want more. So I was really being hard on myself and not able to enjoy the moment. And I think there's just like, you've got to recognize the bigger picture, that it won't just happen instantly, and there's these stages that you go through and the growth that you go through. But as long as you're really kind and supportive and celebrate each step that you're making, and it's not always about the money. I think a lot of the steps that we need to celebrate are different. It's about the personal growth, it's about the confidence, it's, you know, and they're all other things that I think I'd forgotten to be celebrating. I remember it was when you told me about the gratitude process, that was when things really, really changed. And I started doing this gratitude process every day. And that's just been phenomenal. That's just completely changed the energy of everything. And then ultimately that did mean that I could travel alone and stay in Airbnb. I've lived in Airbnbs and hotels for the last 6 months, which I've only dreamed of before. So it just happened in the right timing.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. So what I'm hearing there is that obviously first acknowledging that it's not always going to be easy, but what I'm hearing you're saying as the advice for other busy mums out there, or people feeling like that's not possible for them, you're saying to have your business quite established with some systems in place so that you're not trying to figure so many things out and try and also manage a family and travel around. And then also being really kind to yourself and grateful for what you do have and what is working around you in that very moment, so you can at least acknowledge and appreciate what's going on in the present moment. Any other advice that you'd give to busy mums or coaches really starting to get the ball rolling in their business?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that helped me was, as soon as you've mastered each stage of the business, it's really learning how to hand that over, either delegating or automating things. So quite a lot of that I picked up from you, because you're very good on systems, whereas I'm more of a chaotic kind of let's have a million different strategies and none of them are ever completed kind of person. So it was about being strict with myself and thinking, right, oh, okay, look at that. Like, I can remember looking at your Google Drive and thinking, ooh, it's all organized. How did you do that? So some of it's just as simple as that. And then once I'd got organization, it helped my mind, for one, to focus, but also that meant that I could keep handing over sections. And one of the moments when it really went well was when I hired my third member of staff just before I went to Australia, and she just took the last pieces of stress off me, and that was a massive relief. So bit by bit I've been handing over more and more work, and then when that final piece came just back in April before I went to Australia, it was like, oh, and I really don't have to do anything.
That is so
And that
good.
was a big relief.
Amazing. Speaking of automation, as you know, something I'm very passionate about is running online events, whether that be live events, automated events, free events, or paid. And I know a big piece of, your strategy and your funnel these days is running automated events. And that's what's really supporting you to grow and scale at the moment. So what made you decide to do that? And could you speak a little bit into how that is supporting your growth overall?
Yeah, so I like events and I like speaking. I'm quite happy to do that. But one thing I found was to do too many events, I found it draining just because I've got the kids with me all the time, and just the build up to it. So the way I figured it out was to do events and I roughly do them live every 2 or 3 months, and sometimes even longer gap, like maybe one every 6 months. And then what I do is I record it and then I use it as a funnel, and my staff send it out via messaging sequence. So I don't have anything to do with it. So I've got somebody who puts it into a funnel and it's all automated. So it looks fancy, and it collects email addresses and then takes people on an email campaign. And then I've got other people who are sending it out and using various messages to bring in people into my diary, basically. So I set this thing up, do it once, record it for 30 minutes, and then it's constantly working as a funnel. And that's just been brilliant, because to me, that's the passivity in the business. That's where life's got very easy, because all of these funnels other people are just doing for me. They're just pinging them out, and they're constantly working for me. So work that I did, this time last year is still producing results. And the other thing with it is I've found, of all the kind of lead generation strategies, that video and live events and recorded events seems to be the best, because people can feel your energy on there, which is the biggest thing. Whereas if I was to send them like a PDF or something, it's quite hard to build that personal connection.
100%.
So I know when people have watched my training, they're going to be the right people for me, because if they're not, they would be repelled by my energy. So if they like my energy, then we're probably going to get on working together. So that's what I like about it, is that it brings the most amazing entrepreneurs into my space by doing it with very little effort from me.
I love that. That's so good. I think, yeah, events are just so great for exactly what you said, like being able to get your energy across and your value across. And whether you do it live or in person or online or automated, the process can really be the same if you have, a strategic funnel in place, and that's what you've got. And I love that you've really made little tweaks along the way to really perfect it. And now you just have people coming to you based off that, which is amazing. Just to start to wrap things up, if you had to start your business again today from the ground up, what 3 things would you prioritize to get to where you are now?
Yeah, so definitely mindset and energetics, without a doubt. That's just been the biggest key change. So really learning to nourish myself first, and starting the day with gratitude, and just really just focusing on that as the number one. So that would be my first and foremost. The second is I would really be creating clear systems so that I can delegate and automate as soon as possible, because the sooner I did that, the better results I've got. So that would be the next thing. And the third thing, particularly from an OT perspective, is if only I realised that we had so many skills that were sellable in the online space at an earlier stage. because already from being an occupational therapist, we've got all these skills like coaching and all the different extra skills that we've qualified in. And if I realize that we can actually just package them up in a different way, so it's about creating offers that excite people and excite me. Like if I knew that at the start, how sellable we are, and how if we just learn to package ourselves up in a different way, it can have incredible life-changing results. We really are creating transformations for people. So yeah, that would be the three things that I would do.
I love that. Thank you so much. Now, for any OTs listening that would love to work with you, like where can people find you and like who do you serve and how can you help them?
Yes, so I'm helping occupational therapists across the world. I've got a Facebook group, OT Yourself to Freedom, and I can also be found on Instagram and LinkedIn. I have a website, bekieakins.com, and there's a number of free trainings on my website, which is probably the easiest way to start getting to know what I offer and how I can help. And I take OTs from the design stage of business. So if you've not even got your full idea, that's perfect, because that's when I really like to get in and help people. And I also help people who've got the idea and they've started, but they just can't quite get the results. So that's where I'm taking people. And sometimes that's OTs who've already got a busy practice, and it might be OTs who are employed. But my biggest focus is creating a freedom style business. And I think that's the important thing to note, that I'm not wanting to teach people that they've got to work super hard. I'm looking at ways that we can maintain our energy as people. So I'm looking for ways where the business will be so aligned that you're energized by it.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Honestly, for any new coaches listening to this, this is exactly how you're meant to pitch yourself. If I was an OT, I'd be going straight to you immediately. So good. Thank you so much for your time and energy. Is there any last words that you want to share that has been left unsaid today before we wrap up?
I don't think so. Just that it's been a wonderful journey with you, and I have enjoyed every second of just being in your energy.
Likewise, likewise. Thank you so much. Are you ready to create aligned, scalable results in your coaching or service-based business? If so, I'd love to work with you. I support my clients through all stages in business through my signature programs. Rise to Coach, which is for new coaches or service providers wanting to sign their first clients through setting rock-solid foundations. Or we have Rise with Events, my self-paced lifetime access course for those wanting to focus solely on learning how to plan, promote, and present highly impactful online events to grow your business. And Rise to 6, the mastermind for rising coaches to scale to consistent 10K months and beyond. If you are a listener of this podcast, I know one of these programs will be for you, depending on your stage in business. You can click the link in the description to learn more about all of my offers and see if any of these are the right fit for you. Or feel free to message me on Instagram at Sofia Bernardi and let's chat. Until then, I'll see you in next week's episode.